why is there suffering? You know, take a second and really just let that question sit with you. It's a question that cuts straight to the very core of being human. And what makes it so profound is that it isn't just some abstract logic puzzle you solve on a whiteboard. It's deeply, deeply experiential. Everyone across literally every era and culture eventually sits in the quiet and asks it. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going on a bit of a journey today, zooming all the way out to a grand, cosmic logic puzzle, and then bringing it right back down to our grounded, everyday human reality. We're going to look at the ancient paradoxes, the biological necessities of pain, and the deeply personal ways we actually find meaning in the hardest moments of our lives. Section 1. The Epicurean Paradox. So, the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus came up with this brilliant logic trap to challenge the traditional idea of a deity. But to really grasp it, we first need to define two classic attributes of God: omnipotent, which just means all-powerful, and omnibenevolent, meaning all good. Now, here's a fun historical aside. Even though we attribute this idea to Epicurus way back around 300 BCE, the earliest surviving record we actually have of this exact phrasing comes from a 3rd century Christian writer named Lactantius in a treatise he wrote called On the Anger of God. Okay, so how do these definitions interact with reality? Let's walk through what's known as the trilemma breakdown. It basically rests on a massive logical collision. Point 1, if God is willing to prevent evil but unable, well, he's not omnipotent, he lacks the power. Point 2, if he is able but unwilling, he's not omnibenevolent, he lacks the goodness. Point 3, if he's neither able nor willing, then he's just malevolent and weak. Which brings us to the ultimate kicker. If God is both able and willing, whence cometh evil? Like, why does it exist at all? Section 2. 3 philosophical responses. Now, philosophers haven't just ignored this trap. They've spent centuries building what are called theodicies, basically attempts to reconcile a totally good God with a world full of evil. First up is the free will defense, which was really championed by Alvin Plantinga. His point is that a world with truly free agents, people who can actually choose to do good or bad, is infinitely more valuable than a world of pre-programmed robots. I mean, let's be real, nobody wants to be a moral Roomba just bumping blindly into walls of goodness, right? Having real freedom inherently requires the genuine possibility of choosing wrong. So in this view, moral evil stems entirely from human choice, not from God's design. Next, we've got skeptical theism, which is often tied to the greater good defense. This one essentially argues that our human brains are just way too limited to grasp some ultimate divine plan. Think of it like a giant puzzle where we only hold a few pieces. What we, with our finite minds, perceive as gratuitous evil or completely pointless suffering might actually be entirely necessary to bring about a far greater good. Or it might be preventing a vastly worse evil that we literally just cannot foresee. And then there's the third response, which completely flips the script. It's called the soul-making, or Irenaean theodicy. This argument says, hey, evil and suffering, they aren't bugs in the system, they are features. They're specifically designed to foster virtues in us. Just think about your own life for a second. Building everyday resilience, real moral growth, true courage, and deep empathy. Those things are practically impossible unless you face some sort of real adversity. Section 3, the biology of suffering. Let's step away from the abstract cosmic logic puzzles for a minute. Because, well, when you strip away all the theology, suffering has an undeniable, heavy physical reality. Biologically speaking, pain is quite literally the tax we pay to stay alive. Our nerve endings scream at us about tissue damage so we don't accidentally destroy ourselves. It's an absolutely crucial alarm system. And it's not just physical, is it? Emotional grief is the unavoidable dark side of our ability to deeply connect. You just cannot have profound love without opening yourself up to the risk of profound grief. Plus, evolution itself operates through built-in conflict and decay. Suffering is just woven straight into the biological mechanics of life. Section 4. Spiritual and philosophical frameworks. So if suffering is this baked-in biological reality, how on earth do we process it? Well, different global traditions have tried to wrap their heads around these messy realities in radically different ways. Take Eastern traditions, for instance, like Buddhism and Hinduism. Over there, suffering, or dukkha, isn't seen as some weird anomaly caused by an outside entity. It's viewed as the fundamental nature of temporal existence itself, driven by our own attachments, impermanence, and desires. Now contrast that with Western monotheism. That tradition generally views suffering as this massive tension between divine sovereignty and human choice, with the ultimate goal being some kind of redemption or refinement. It is a wildly different lens for looking at the exact same human experience. Section 5. choosing how we respond. This brings us to what I think is the most intimate and personal part of our explainer. Because look, regardless of all the cosmic logic or the biological wiring, at the end of the day, you and I still have to wake up and live in a world where things hurt. And this is exactly where the existentialist view comes into play. Thinkers like Albert Camus argued that the universe itself has no built-in blueprints or reason for our pain. It's just indifferent. If you yell why into the cosmos, you get nothing back but silence. But, and here's the catch, that silence isn't entirely a bleak thing, because the responsibility, the burden of finding meaning, shifts completely onto us. We get to decide what it all means. And that exact thought leads us directly to this incredibly powerful quote from Friedrich Nietzsche: "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." This isn't just some dusty philosophical theory, it is hard-won wisdom. The famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl wrote about this after surviving the unimaginable horrors of concentration camps. He realized that while we very often have zero choice in our suffering, we absolutely retain the ultimate freedom to choose our attitude toward it and to give it our own personal meaning. You know, the incredible depth of the question, why is there suffering, comes from the simple fact that no single intellectual answer is ever going to completely wipe away the actual pain of going through it. We've explored the ancient paradoxes, the hard biological necessities, and the search for existential meaning. But ultimately, all of this forces us to confront our own shared vulnerability. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In a fundamentally imperfect world, where suffering is just a given, how will you choose to respond? And how will we choose to care for one another?